So good morning to all. Yesterday we started the third module, just the introduction to third module, and now I'll be sharing the screen. We'll continue with the rest of the portions. So module 3 was about designing and development of embedded products, and in this we were the subsection that we were dealing with was embedded firmware design and development. We know the embedded product contains both hardware and firmware part, and here first section we are going to deal with embedded firmware design and development. And yesterday we were speaking about always firmware is considered as the master brain of the embedded system, and without firmware, the product is no use to the no use to the customer. And so it is responsible for controlling all the peripheral devices, all the hardware units that is connected to the system. And since it is unalterable by end user, it is stored in ROM, and other storage areas include non-volatile RAM, flash, EEPROM, etc. Then we were speaking about the embedded firmware design process. Now, this firmware design process, the design process begins like capturing the requirements from the end user, then it is converted into UML diagrams or a flow chart which represents the requirements as a model, and then from the model we identify the task, and these tasks are to be implemented. We have to write the firmware in some programming language corresponding to each task. Now, the design approach, there were two basic design approach for embedded firmware. We were speaking about this yesterday also. There are two basic approaches. Do you remember what were those approaches? ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടോ the two basic approaches? Firmware design approaches. Can you hear me? Hello? Am I audible to you? Hello? അശ്വതി കേൾക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ടോ? അശ്വതി ഇല്ല ഇതിനകത്ത്? അനുശ്രീ? Okay, okay. Okay. So there were two design approaches. The first design approach is called conventional, procedural based firmware design. Conventional, it is an old method, and this method is based on procedural design. That is, procedural means following a step by step approach. So conventional, procedural based firmware design, and this first method is also called super loop model. So the conventional procedural based firmware design is also known as super loop model. Most of the university questions, they mention super loop model only. They don't use this term. Conventional procedural based firmware design is not commonly used. The most commonly used name is super loop model. The question can be explained the super loop model, or it can be they don't ask the name. Instead of that, they will ask the basic design approach for embedding firmware. So there are two approaches. First is the conventional procedural based firmware approach, or the super loop model, and the second model is embedded OS based design approach. So the second method, then as the name indicates, it is for OS based embedded systems, and this conventional approach, procedural based firmware design or the super loop model, is for non OS based design. So the question can be like this also. Explain the embedded firmware design approach for non OS based embedded systems. If it is for non OS based embedded systems, then they are asking about super loop model only. Okay, so the first method is for non-OS based embedded systems. The second method is for OS based embedded systems. So the first method deals with firmware design for non-OS based embedded systems, and it is called conventional procedural based firmware design. The common name used is super loop model. So super loop model is used for non-OS based embedded systems that do not need to embed, do not want an operating system. There are, as we said earlier, embedded systems can be OS based or non-OS based. For non-OS based systems, the firmware design approach most commonly followed is Superloop model. And the second method is for OS based systems, embedded operating system based design. So first is the super loop based approach. It is for non-OS based systems. So yesterday we were speaking about its features. One or two features were discussed yesterday. Now it is adopted for applications which are not time critical. Like we are not specific about the time. Even missing deadlines is acceptable in such cases. For example, in electronic toys and all, even if one of the key press doesn't work, it doesn't cause any harm to the end user. So in such cases, we use the super loop based approach. So it is used in applications that are not time critical, and the response time is also not important. That is, for certain applications, the system should respond within the specified time. But this approach can be used for those systems where the response time is not so important, and that is missing deadlines are acceptable. Even if one particular function doesn't work, it is acceptable. Then the second point says that it is similar to procedural programming. The name itself says a conventional procedural embedded system design approach, embedded firmware design approach. So it is similar to a procedural programming model like C programming and all. We write the function, and the function is executed line by line, one after the other, and finally it comes to the when it comes to the last statement, the program terminates. So just like that, it is a procedure-oriented approach, and the code is executed. And instead of instructions, as in C program, here we have task. We have different tasks that are to be executed by the embedded system. So task 1 should execute first, followed by task 2. Then after task 2 completes, task 3 should execute, and so on. If there are n tasks in the embedded system, then the last task will be executed. The nth task will be executed at the end. And after completing the nth task, it will again come to the first task, and this goes on in a loop. And that is called super loop approach. Okay. So in this method, as I said, there will be a set of tasks. Suppose the tasks are task 1, task 2, etc., task n. Then the first task 1 will execute first. When it completes, it goes to task 2, and when task 2 completes, it goes to the next task 3, and so on. It will reach the nth task. When all the tasks have been completed, again the system will begin from the first task. So this is like a loop. And since this loop works infinitely as long as the product is in use, we call it as the super loop approach. Did you understand what I said? Why we call it as a super loop approach? Can anyone say why we call it a super loop approach, Anushri? Why do we call this approach a super loop approach? Yeah, infinite time. Execute. Yeah. Here we have, suppose the product has to complete n tasks. All these tasks are executed in a sequence. Like task 1 will execute first, followed by task 2, then task 3, etc. It will reach final task n. After reaching the task n, the system will again go back to task 1. So this happens in a loop, and this loop continues till the product is in use. As long as the product is in use, this loop continues. Maybe it may be for years, or it may have something happen to the hardware, and it may stop after a few months or days, and so on. When anyway, till the life ends for the product, the loop will be in loop will be continuing, and so this loop is called super loop. Super loop, and we call this approach as super loop approach. So executing task by task in a sequence, and then repeating the process always. And to repeat a particular sequence of operations, we need a loop, and that loop is mentioned here as super loop. So this executing task by task, one after the other, is a form of procedural approach. and calling the first procedure. Then after when the first procedure completes, it will return back to the point of call, and then the main program will call the next procedure, and so on. So this approach is similar to procedural programming approach. Only thing here is instead of procedure, we have different tasks to be executed by the system. So thus, since there are many tasks, we call it as a multitask based system. If there are more than one task in a system, we call it as multitask based system, and the tasks are executed serially. Serially means one after the other. Parallel means simultaneously. Serially means executing one after the other. Then, the firmware execution flow can be summarized as in this sequence of steps. How the firmware execution happens in Superloop approach is summarized in these steps. The first step is you have to configure the parameters. There will be certain parameters that has to be set to configure the hardware components. Then you have to initialize memory, initialize registers, etc. So the initialization process is the first step in this approach. That is, configure the common parameters and perform initialization for various hardware components, memory, registers, etc. We are giving, if there is a count, we have to load the count register and so on. Whatever initialization has to be done, we have to do it in the first step itself. After initialization, we will go to the first task. Start the first task. When everything is okay, the first task is to be executed. Then after the first task complete, the third step we go to the second task. When the second task is completes, in the fourth step we go to the next task. Maybe it is the third task and fourth and so on. That's what I'm given fifth and sixth. There may be more than if there are more tasks, and this goes on. And then the seventh step, when we have reached the last task, we have when the last task has been completed in the seventh step, in the eighth step we jump back to the first task and follow the same procedure. The first task is step 2. In step 2 we have we have written that we have to execute the first task, so it will go back to step 2 and it will execute. And again, when it reaches the seventh step, when all tasks have been completed, in the eighth step it will go back to the second step. And this loop, this successive loop, and this goes on infinitely. So such a looping technique is called super loop approach. So we find that the tasks, they are to be executed. The first task will be always executed first. The second task defined here will be always executing second in the second stage, and then so on. The order in which these tasks are executed is always fixed. After the first task, the second task gets executed, and this task is always executed after the first task. So there is a fixed order for the task to be executed, and they are hard coded, and we write it in the code itself. We cannot change the order. Once we have coded that the one after the task one after the other, then they remain the same forever. And so we consider, so this acts as an infinite loop, and this infinite loop can be written as a pseudo code in C. Now I'm writing a simple program code in C. This is only a sample code, a representation of super loop approach in C program. So did you understand what super loop approach is? Amrita, Amrita, Amrita ഇല്ലേ? Febna, respond ചെയ്യാത്തവർക്ക് absent വരാം. Okay, Febna, did you understand what super loop approach is? Yes or no? Okay, what is this approach? Why do we call it as a super loop approach? Why do we call it as a super loop approach? Vishnu P. I'm calling out these names because you're not responding. If anybody is responding, then I'll just move forward. ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കണം. ഇതെന്താ സൂപ്പർ ലൂപ്പ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത് മനസ്സിലായോ? It executes in an infinite loop. There will be a set of n tasks, and these tasks execute in an infinite loop as long as the product is in use. So, hope you understood what I'm saying. I'm going to the next step. That is, how do we code the super loop approach using? How do we represent it in a C program? 1 minute, please. 1 minute. Hello. Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello. Okay. Okay. So how can we represent the super loop in C program? വളരെ സിമ്പിളാണ്. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞ ഈ സ്റ്റെപ്സിന് കറസ്പോണ്ടിങ് ആയിട്ട് ഒരു സി കോഡ് എഴുതുക. അപ്പോൾ സി കോഡ് എഴുതുമ്പം വി സ്റ്റാർട്ട് വിത്ത് void main. എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാവുന്നൊരു കാര്യമാണ്. വി സ്റ്റാർട്ട് വിത്ത് void main function is the first function in C program that gets executed. So void is the return type of the main function, and we are not passing any parameters to main. അതാണ് ബ്രാക്കറ്റിനകത്തൊന്നുമില്ല. So void main. Then open bracket, the first step, as I said here, you have to configure the parameters. Before starting the first task, you have to initialize all the variables, the memory locations, the registers, etc. So that is the first step done here, and that is done using a function called calling the function configurations. There is a dummy function. We are not bothered about what it does, but we have explained that we have to configure the system. So we are calling a function, a built-in function. Maybe there's a library function or a user-defined function. It can be anything, but we are just writing a pseudo code. So configurations function, it will configure our system. Then after configuring the hardware components, the next step is initializing the variable. So initializations are done using initializations function. So this open and close parenthesis represents a function only. So configurations function is called to configure the hardware. Then after configuring the hardware, the next step is initializing the variables, like it can be registers, it can be memory locations or some other parameters, etc. And by calling the initializations function, we initialize the variable. So these two functions are summarized in this step 1, that is configuring and initialization, is what is mentioned in the first step of our execution flow, firmware execution flow. And then, so first step is over. Next we said we have to execute first task, then second, so on till the end task. So to execute, and this will happen in a loop, and this takes place continuously. So we have to write a loop for executing the task. And when I write this loop, I'm using, there can be several loops, but here I'm representing it using a while loop. So while bracket 1, and what do you mean by while 1? What do you mean by while 1? I'm writing 1 in parentheses. What happens in that loop? Inside the while loop, I'm writing 1. What happens? Yeah, it's an infinite loop. Why? Why is it an infinite loop? Always true. 1 means in C program, if something executes to 1, then we consider it as true value. So I'm just here, instead of executing any expression, I'm just giving the value of 1. So when I write 1 inside of while loop, it means that this loop is always true. It is not becoming false at any time, which means the loop will be executing continuously. And I'm not checking for false condition also. So this loop, it will be an infinite loop, and it is always, and it will execute continuously. So inside the while loop, task 1 is called, and that function where task 1 will execute is called as a function. So the control will jump to task 1, execute that procedure, and then it will return back to the point of call, that is this point, task 1 point, and then it will go to the next instruction, task 2. Task 2 is called, it will jump to task 2, execute task 2, it will return back to the point of call, and so on until the task n gets executed. Now, after executing the task n, since it is this loop is always true, it will go back and then it will start executing task 1, task 2, etc., and this goes on infinitely. Okay. So did you understand the code? It's a simple code. Any doubt in that code? Very simple code to represent super loop approach. So whenever there is a question in super loop approach, just write this code. Okay. Should include this code also along with the theory. Any doubt? Asking doubt or no? Okay. So here we find that each task they are executed infinitely. So since the loop is getting executed infinitely, the tasks also are getting executed infinitely throughout its operation. And as I said here, the while one loop is used, and this while one loop is referred to as the super loop. And we call this approach as super loop approach because it is executing infinitely. We call this loop a while loop as a super loop, and this approach is called super loop approach. There can be other infinite loops also. Here we are representing it using while loop. Now, when will this loop get terminated? What are the conditions under which this infinite loop can terminate? So here we have said the two conditions. That is, once a hardware reset occurs, it will bring the program back to its main loop. When there is a reset, it will again, the program will come back, the control will come back to the main loop and will start executing again. And then when an interrupt occurs, when a high priority interrupt occurs, suppose while the task 2 is getting executed, a high priority interrupt has occurred, then it will temporarily suspend this task 2 and it will jump to the interrupt service routine. And after completing the interrupt service routine, the task 2 will continue execution. And these are the situations where the loop can get terminated or suspended. So, as I said earlier, this super loop approach, it does not require an operating system. This approach is for non-OS based embedded systems, whereas the second approach is for OS based embedded systems, and super loop approach is for non-OS based embedded systems. And the code for the super loop approach is permanently written in the code memory. Then also, as we said, there it is used in non-time critical products. This design is deployed in low-cost embedded products and the products where response time is not time critical. So, an example of such a super loop approach is given here. Now, an example shown here is reading or writing data to and from a card using a card reader. So I want to read or write data from a card. I have a card reader. I'm reading data from that a particular card using a card reader. So first step is checking the presence of card, and only if the card is present, we need to go for the next step. So without executing the first task, I cannot execute the authentication process. Once you go to an ATM and you insert your card, so the machine will first check whether your card has been inserted. If you haven't inserted your card, it will ask you to insert the card. So that will be the first step, and this step will be always executed first, and only then it will go to the next task, and that is authentication process. So it will then ask you to enter your card number to identify, to check whether if it is you're the person owner of that card, and only after authentication process it will go to the next step. So these tasks, they are to be strictly executed in that specific order, and in such cases this super loop approach is stupid. because task 1 will be executed first. Only after task 1 gets executed, it will go to the next step, that is task 2. And only when task 2 has been completed, it will go to the third step, task 3. And in this case, reading or writing data. Once the authentication process is complete, then it will go for reading or writing data to or from the card. And this is strictly sequential. You cannot skip first task and go to the second step. Only if the first task is completed, the second task can start execution. Okay, so in those applications where the sequence is to be strictly maintained, the super loop approach can be adopted. Did you understand what I said? Hello? Shall I proceed? Hello? Okay. Now we have drawbacks for the super loop approach, super loop model, or in short we call it as SLM. That is first drawback is failure in any part. If any a single task fails, if any one task fails, then the entire system fails. Because if the first task fails, then it will not go to the second task. Only if the second task is completed, it will go to third task. So if the first task or any task in between fails, then the entire system, the total system will be a failure. So the remedial action is to use certain hardware and software watchdogs. There are watchdog timers set, and when it helps to come out of the loop when something goes wrong, and that is called watchdog timer. And I don't think you have to study this timer sequence. There is a watchdog timer which frequently monitors the task, and when any problem happens within the task, this timer, it will wait for some time and it will let the system come out of the loop. That is one remedial measure for this first drawback, that is failure of any part of the single task can affect the total system. It can be overcome using watchdog timers, but it increases the cost of hardware and firmware. Then second drawback is lack of real timeliness. That is, we said there can be any number of tasks in the system. I said there are n tasks. The n can be any number, and if the number of tasks increases, then the time executed, the time at which each task is repeated, also increases. That is, if there are 100 tasks, the first task can be executed. The first task will get its turn only after all the 100 tasks have been executed. So, as the number of tasks increases, the repetition time also increases. The time to repeat a task also increases. And this will cause certain events to be missed out. That is, task one has certain events, and if and this task one detects these events only when it is in execution process. But if the event has occurred before its execution or after its execution, then it will lead to missing out of some events. So maybe most of the functions may not, some of the functions, if the task increases, functions may not work properly. So as the task increases, the time of repetition increases, and it leads to missing out some of the events. So the remedial measure for this drawback is use some interrupts for externally requiring real-time attention. So external events, if certain events need immediate attention, then use some interrupt procedure. And an interrupt occurs when the current executing task stop, and it can go to the interrupt service routine. But whatever we are doing here to overcome these drawbacks, it will result in increased hardware or software costs, and also to overcome that in cost, you have to use high-speed, low-cost processors to uh, to implement these interrupt routines, because apart from the usual tasks, interrupt routines are also getting executed simultaneously. So we have to go for high-speed, low-cost processors to overcome this drawback. So these are the two drawbacks. of super loop approach. One is failure in any task will cause the failure of the entire system, or overcome using watchdog timers. Then lack of real timeliness, that is if the number of tasks increases, the time to repeat a task also increases, and it can be overcome by using interrupts for events. And in order to accommodate these interrupts along with the task, we have to go for high speed, low cost processors or controllers. So, did you understand the super loop approach and its drawbacks? Hello? Anybody has any doubts? Okay. So, we have discussed about super loop approach, the steps in super loop approach, then yes, the C code for representing the super loop approach, and the drawbacks of super loop approach. So the second approach is the embedded OS based approach. So the first approach, that is the super loop approach, is for non-operating system based non-OS based embedded systems. And now we are going for OS based embedded systems, a design approach for OS based embedded systems. So when we come to OS-based systems, the OS-based approach, it contains either general purpose OS, GPOS, general purpose OS, or real-time OS. So the two types of OS that we come across in OS-based embedded systems are general purpose OS or GPOS and real-time OS. For real-time applications, we cannot use general purpose OS. We have to go for real-time OS because most of the features supporting real-time operations are present in RTOS, that is real-time OS. So we have two types of OS, general purpose OS and real-time OS. So in embedded systems, we come across two types of OS. What are the two types of OS? Ashwini, what are the two types of OS? Ashwini, what are the two types of OS? Ashwin. ഓക്കെ ജനറൽ പർപ്പസ് OS, ജനറൽ അല്ല ബാക്കിയും കൂടെ പറയണം. അടുത്ത എന്താ പറഞ്ഞു? One is general purpose OS, GPOS എന്നാണ് അത് പറയുന്നത്. General purpose OS, GPOS. And the other is general special purpose അല്ല. General purpose OS and real time OS, RTOS. Okay, general purpose OS and real time OS. ഇപ്പം ഈ മൊഡ്യൂൾ കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഫോർത്തും കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഫിഫ്തിൽ വരുമ്പം ദ ഫിഫ്ത് മൊഡ്യൂൾ എൻറ്റയർ മൊഡ്യൂൾ ഡീൽസ് വിത്ത് ആർട്ടോസ് ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഷെഡ്യൂളിംഗ്. അതായത് ഫുൾ മൊഡ്യൂളും ആർട്ടോസിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ്. സോ ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ ജസ്റ്റ് ആർട്ടോസ് എന്താണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു പോകുന്നേ ഉള്ളൂ. ടു ടൈപ്സ് ഓഫ് OS ഉണ്ട്, ജനറൽ പർപ്പസ് OS ആൻഡ് റിയൽ ടൈം OS. സോ ടൈം ആയിട്ടോന്നല്ലേ? So take your attendance, please. Roll number 1. Okay. Number 2, Abhinav. Okay. Number 5. Number 5. Answer. 5. 5 is there in the meet, but he's not responding. Respond ചെയ്തില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ആബ്സെന്റ് ഇടുവേ. 5. Then 6. Okay. 7. Okay. 8. Number 8, Ashwin. Okay, number 9, Atul. Number 9, Atul Dinesh absent. Okay,
മിസ് അതുൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇഷ്യൂ.
okay. Number 10, number 11 present. Number 12. Okay, number 13. Okay, number 14. Number 16. Number 16. Absent. Number 17. Okay, number 18. Number 20. Number 22. Number 23. Number 24 under 26. Number 27. Number 28. Number 29. Number 30 Amrita. 31. 31 Ashwati. 32. 33. Number 3 Amal Santosh. Okay, absent is 5, 9 and 16.
Yes, 5% ആണ്.
Answer. ഞാൻ വിളിച്ചപ്പോൾ കേട്ടില്ല, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ്. Okay, 9 നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇഷ്യൂ ആണ്. ഞാനിവിടെ മാർക്ക് ചെയ്തിട്ടേക്കാം നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇഷ്യൂ ഒക്കെ. 60. Okay, താങ്ക് യു.